Okay. So I think we are all set. Maybe now Giuliana or Almana, please make an introduction of Petra. I think Almana will do that. Yes.
Okay.
And this is my cat Simba who wants to join. And I would appreciate if everybody would just mute the computers. Okay, mute the sound so we are not interfering with the conversation.
Okay, when you say mute, hit the mute button.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, please. Yes. Good, good. You are a fast learner.
Well, hi, my name is Almana. I'm from Germany. Well, moved to Germany in 2006. And I'm a German-Russian translator. And I'm very glad to greet you all here at this meeting with a German writer, journalist, and translator, Petra Reategi. She writes small stories and also romans about mostly it's historical criminal detective stories, right? Based on real facts. I got to know Petra, I think, about 4 years ago through our common friend, Ilana Burchieva. Petra was looking at that moment for a translator for her book about Fedor Kalmyk. And it was her first book where the main character was of a Kalmyk origin. And I think, Petra, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the first time, well, thanks to Fedor, Petra got to know Kalmyk history and was very interested in Kalmyk history. And thanks to this, she has written now another book where the main character is a Kalmyk soldier. The book has been already published in March. And if you speak or read any German, you can buy it. And during the research on the second book, I think, yeah, Petra has discovered that there is a huge amount of historical information about Kalmyks in Germany, which has not been processed or documented properly. And now she has a new project to write not a fictive, but a documentary book on on displaced persons in Germany, on the camps for displaced persons in Germany, where also Kalmyks lived. And yes, Petra, please tell us about your books, about your new projects. We will be glad to listen to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Almana. Yes, now let's give the floor to our main speaker today, Ms. Petra Reategi. And after that, of course, we will have a discussion after the main topics are taken.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm very glad that I can be with you on this in Germany afternoon or late afternoon. I'm very glad to know you and that I may be able to ask a few questions to you. But as Almana said, maybe first I will shortly say why I came or talk about how I came to this subject of the Kalmyks in Germany. And I must say, I show you my first book on the Kalmyk that is on the painter, and he lived in the end of the 18th century in Germany. And the funny thing is that he and me, we are from the same hometown. So for me, he is my home. He is my countryman, practically. He lived and he died and he was buried in Karlsruhe, and I'm from Karlsruhe too, from southwestern Germany. And I came across him when I was a child at school, because his name is mentioned at school in the lessons, but I forgot completely. I didn't know anymore what is Kалмык. And in Karlsruhe, we say the Kалмыk. We pronounce on the first part of the word. And I came across him by doing research on a historical criminal story. And he was a very good friend to a very famous architect of my hometown, Karlsruhe. And I asked myself, what is a Kалмыk? I had no idea anymore what is a Kалмыk. And whenever I asked people, nobody knew what is the word Kалmık. Nobody knew about it. So I got into the research of this, and I found out where he came from and about his life and everything what is written in the book. Okay, the dialogues are invention by myself as an author, but I tried to be very close to the historical facts, and I add a lot of information and bibliography and whatever I could find. I worked 4 years on his life, and I went to Athens and to Rome. He lived, in fact, 9 years in Rome, 3 years in Athens, and he worked there everywhere there. So I went there to find out about his life, and then I wrote the book, and altogether I worked 4 years on it. But while I was working on Fedor, who became like a brother to me, as I said, he is my home. We are from the same town, so he is my countryman. And he lived in my house here for years and years, and I talked to him and everything. So I got very close to him. And by doing this work on him, of course, I came across of the history of the Kалмыk people. And what I did not know at all is the modern history. Of course, he died in 1832. So I stopped my research there in 1832. And I said, no, I don't want to know more. So otherwise I get confused with my biography. But I found out about the modern history in Second World War, and I didn't want to talk about that. Myself, as a German, I sometimes still have problems with our own history. And so I said, no, I don't want. But then I found out that all the people I met in Germany, when I was talking about my work, they all said, but what are these Kалмыks? I've never heard that name. I have no idea. And then I got confused, and I said, this is not possible. There are links between Kалмыks and Germans due to the Second World War. So I think I have to know more about that. And that was the moment when I decided I'm going to Elista and to find out more and to know about modern Kalmykia. And I was invited at that time by a Kalmyk lady who worked in science institute in Elista, and she invited me, and I went there, and I could talk about Fedor, the painter, the artist, and I found out, I was only there for 4 or 5 days, but it was very interesting for me for the first time to be there, and also a little bit to compare, because I have twice to Mongolia for every time for 3 weeks to work there as a radio journalist with the Mongolian radio. So there was already a kind of slight connection to the history of the Kalmyks. And then I got more and more curious about this history in modern times, in the Second World War, with the Deutsche Wehrmacht, with the German Wehrmacht, and all this. And slowly something in my head started to develop. It was like a baby. You get pregnant, it starts very slowly. You do not know what will come out in the end, but sometimes something will come out. And I had many talks with Almana about that. I had talks with the people I met in Elista, and I talked to another family, to another woman who is Kалмык and whose parents met me in Elista. And we had also some talks and written talks about this. Then I decided to study Russian, to learn Russian, but my Russian is very bad. But it helps to understand a little bit when I come across of something now. And so I started finally, and this plot for the new book, which has a German title, Kalt fließt die Mosel, very cold is the water of the Mosel, which is a river in Germany. And I mixed the history of Saanen with the history of German people of that time in the 40s. And I mingled them in the end, somehow in a criminal story. But I hope that the end is okay. Yeah, this is, and while I was doing this research, as Paulina said and Almana said, I thought people in Germany should know about this connection between Kalmyks and Germans. As really, I think 98% do not know, have no idea. And so I started, and I got, I think with the help of another Giuliana or of Almana, I don't remember anymore, I got in contact with Jelena Remileva, and she died 2 years ago, I think. And Jelena Remileva at that time lived in Munich, and she was telling me that she had written a book in Russian about the Kalmyk, Karavani Kalmytskoi steppe. And I got this book from Russia that was still in pre-war times, in the now pre-war times, before Russia invaded Ukraine. And I got that book, and I understand it quite well when I do it very, very slowly. But this helped me to find out where have been these displaced people camps where the Kalmyks lived after the war. And I will now try to get in contact with the communities in Bavaria to find out more. There's only one little town where I have got so far a very interesting contact. There was Baksha, a priest, a Kalmyk priest, and he died there in the camp in 45, and he was buried by the Kalmyk community who came from all the Bavarian displaced persons camps. And the monument which they have established in 45 is still today on the cemetery and well kept. The tomb is not there anymore. This is after 80 years almost. This is too long. But the monument is still there, and the people there sent me photos. So this will be certainly now the first place where I want to go and to find out more about the life in the Kalmyk camps. In the camps, there have been 5 or 6 camps. And I want to try to find out more, to describe it to the German people. And I would like to have maybe the testimony of, let's say, 5 persons or 10 persons who can tell me more, so that it get a little bit more personal in the end, this documentary. Because the problem is the book of Jelena is completely in Russian, so most of the Germans can't read it. And also there is a lot of information which is lacking. It is, I think, more written for the Kalmyks than for the German population. And of course, I would like to write it for the German population so that they know about this little part of German history.
Very good. Thank you so much, Petra, for the introduction. And I'm sure the topic and the aim of today's meeting is now clear to all of us. Maybe if our dear guests here have some things to share along the lines which Petra mentioned about maybe personal experience in Germany, those, let's say my cousin Lichma Rubzurov, who unfortunately couldn't join today, she told me during our meetings about some children's, you know, memories from there. It would be fine, and I think it would be good. So let's see, Petra, if maybe our good from the United States have something to add, have something to comment about, please.
Yeah, you have Edna Parabora, Edna Dokogino on the line now. Edna, can you unmute it?
Yes, unmute, Edna. Yes, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi.
See, it's funny that you brought that up, Petra, because Edna with her husband years ago went, well, Edna, you could talk about the Buksha that you said. I think she's talking
Yeah.
about the Buksha
Same one?
in the cemetery. Yeah.
The who? Sorry, I didn't understand. The who?
Okay,
the
hi.
Buksha. Yeah.
My
Okay.
name
Buksha,
my name is Ernia, and I'm a Khaimuk, and I live in the U.S. I live in Texas, but originally I hung out with all the Khaimuks in the Philadelphia area. So I'm from, but interestingly, what my nephew was talking about is that I grew up in Germany. I was born there. I was born in March, so it was like a month before the war was ended. And
In which place? Sorry to interrupt you. In which place you were born?
I was born, okay, it's a complicated story, but the camp, the DP camp that we lived in was in Ingolstadt. And lots of our family and friends who lived at that DP camp, they were all born in Pfaffenhofen, Niederau, that area. So that's the part of Germany that I was born in Rohrbach. But the reason why I hesitate is everyone knows I was born in Rohrbach, and they always tell me the story because I was born on the train. And when the train stopped, I had to get my birth certificate extraordinarily saying that I was from Oberammergau. But I was born in Rohrbach, which is one of the towns that you were referring to when you said Ingolstadt and the Niederau now, Pfaffenhofen, and lots of our family, younger family members, they were all born in that area. And Ingolstadt was the main camp. And, you know, I was there until 7 years old, and then we all moved to America. So I remember lots of things that had occurred there. And the Baksha you were referring to, was his name Umaldino?
Yes.
Okay. Again, that's why my nephew, who just now mentioned for me to get on there, there was an interesting story about it, in that my husband and I, we went to visit some family member in Switzerland. While we were in Geneva, Switzerland, in talking, my husband remembers more about Ingolstadt, the DP camp, and Niederau now, because he was much older than I. So he was describing the area, and lo and behold, the brother-in-law, his name is Pierre. He was able to locate the exact cemetery and location of Baksha Umaldino. And in fact, we actually found his tombstone We actually went to the cemetery and we took pictures and photos of his plot. So, which was a good nostalgic memory for my husband, because he was there much older to experience the procession, the walking towards the cemetery by all of the Khalmuks, and the Khalmuk as a group, they all have photos of that procession for Kai Baksha, who was buried at that cemetery. And at that cemetery, the people who take care of it, they still continue to take care of it, and they call that the Buddhist cemetery plot, because the monk, the people there, they don't know, but they take good care of his tombstone. And his name is Baksha Umaldino.
I had that feeling also, because I got pictures of some Germans who went to the cemetery to find out, and they showed me, or they sent me pictures from last year, end of last year, and it looked very properly maintained and very good. And so I have the feeling the community remembers, but the people, the average people, do not remember.
No.
Did your husband tell how life was in the camps, and a relationship with the German population at that time?
Oh yes, he did. He told a lot of stories. In fact, I remember the camp. I was there too until I was 7 years old. So is there something specific you wanted to ask?
Yes, I would like, but maybe that would be even better if it is possible for you one day. First, I would like to go to these places to get an idea of the Bavarian former camps. I don't know if there is still something which I can see. Somebody said to me the camps do not exist anymore, but maybe I get an idea of the landscape and of the city as well, because I've never been to Bavaria, I must say. So I have no idea how it looks, how it looks there. And but after that, I would really make to, if you don't mind, interviews, especially with the person, and maybe for 1 hour also via Zoom or via Skype, and so that I can record and I can ask precise questions, and the other person can tell exactly what he or she remembers.
Okay.
If you agree, we can make a date where we.
Sorry, maybe Petra, we can share your email address here.
Yes, please.
And, everybody who wants to contact you could send you an email, and then you arrange meetings. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I share your email? Yes.
Yes, you can share, or I can put it in the chat.
Okay, you can put yourself. Yes, great.
But you can also share it. No problem.
No, I mean, if you can write it yourself, it will be safer. Yeah.
I think
so it's very touching. Yes, we.
Edna, can you explain to Petra about that one building? It becomes
the castle
that they stayed at, and it got converted into a hotel.
Okay.
I know you have pictures of that. I mean, you can maybe explain a little bit of that, so Petra can, when she goes to that place, she can find it.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't take care at the moment. Oh, because I'm trying to write.
No, it was a question to Miss Serdnie, so she gives more details about some building.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. You were asking. Yes, you were asking the site, the place that my husband and I, that we researched and we went looking. Everyone, when we were living there at that DP camp in Ingolstadt, everyone called the building the castle. And it was UNRWA, you know, the organization from the United Nations. They had housed all of the Khalmuks that had lived in that area in one building, and everybody called it the castle because it was huge and it was white. And we found it. And my husband and I, when we were going back, we found it and we took pictures of it. That building is now a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have pictures of it and etc. And we,
could you send me these pictures?
Yes, I would be glad to, because I definitely would like to have the public, you know, the population in Germany and whatever, to know what happened to our people while we were there. And it was not all negative. I don't want to give the German people the idea it was negative, because me being a child, a lot of it was positive. Same for my husband. We saw life there through the eyes of children, of Khalmuks who were, you know, raised there.
Yeah,
And, you know, and as a child, you know, you tend to be naive and innocent, etc. But that was our perspective.
Yeah. What I wonder, when I read the little descriptions of Jelena Remileva about life in the camps, I had the feeling, according to her book, that life seemed quite easygoing. And I cannot imagine, because it was shortly after the war, and the situation in Germany must have been awful during that time. So I wonder, and I ask myself, how did the adults, your parents, how did they feel? Where did they get food? How could they live?
Yeah, okay.
I had the feeling it was sometimes better than among all the other people in Germany.
Well, I don't know about better or whatnot, but I do know that when our families lived there, we worked in the, not me, of course, the family, they worked there, and they were in the work camps. And I even to this day, I tell my family that, you know, when things got worse, these camps became called concentration camps, because that was the history. That's what Americans were told. But while our families were living there during that time, they were the work camps. So they actually had jobs. They worked in, the women were all seamstresses, because that's what they knew best. So they all worked at the local factories where they were hired as seamstresses. And, you know, they all had jobs within that area. Some of them were like the guards. We have family members, and I have pictures of them in their uniforms, where they were actually hired by the Germans to be guards of that community and take care of the compound, so to speak. I don't know if I'm using the right words, because I know they wouldn't call it a compound, but that's what I would be calling it.
Yeah. It is, I had the feeling also when I hear you talking now, I have the feeling these are two different worlds if you compare with the Germans after the war, or for example, with the repatriation camps where the Polish and Russian forced laborers had to
They
live.
all lived there too, like in the same exact location in Ingolstadt. There were a lot of Ukrainians there too. It wasn't just Khalmuks who were housed in these work camps. In fact, you know, I actually wind up meeting some of them who were actually neighbors during the same time period that the Khalmuks and my family, for example, had lived in Ingolstadt. I met up with them later on at University of Rutgers. And they were there. They were Ukrainians. So it was not just Khalmuks who were at the camps.
How did the German population react to the Kalmaks?
It must have been okay because, like I said, my family, don't forget I was very young. They got along well with the community that they were, surrounded by.
I think there are so many questions now coming into my it is and I have slowly to find out.
Now, Petra, if I can make a suggestion, I don't want to reinvent the wheel here, but Benny Mushkin has a website. It's called the Ben Mushkin. He's a Kalmyk. He's got a website called Kalmyk American Videos. It's on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And you can go look at the history of what he put together, and it's a nice capsule. It gives you all the history, and it gives you like, if you're interested in Germany, you can click on the Germany photos and albums, and you'll get a feel of what it was like. I can only speak because of what my parents told me. If you look at most of the photos, and Edna, you can quote me on this, most of the Kalmyks are wearing soldier clothes. They're not wearing normal, everyday German clothes. They're wearing hand-me-down German uniforms. That's what they're wearing, and you'll see those pictures. And
that's because a lot of the families, they actually worked in the factory where they were making or sewing together the German uniforms. That was part of the job that they had. The women were doing that, and then like, Bemba's father, he cut out the uniforms and stuff.
Sorry, I do not
but
know.
I will send you the details for Mr. Moshkin. Actually, I invited him for the meeting, but he didn't, maybe he didn't see my message or something like this. It would be fantastic to have him here, of course, to share.
Paulina, could you send me the details so that I know where I can find it?
I will send you, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
No, I can only speak for what my father told me, and just to give you a rough idea what it was like. My grandfather smoked cigarettes, and you couldn't find tobacco. So my father's duty was to pick up the cigarette butts thrown by the American GIs, and he collected it and put it together so my grandfather could have a cigarette to smoke. So it wasn't easy to buy these things. Mm-hmm. And my father would always tell me that he would jump on a cart, like a horse and carriage, sneak out of school and go play soccer with the other Kalmyks against the other nationalities. And if you look at Benny Mushkin's website, you'll see some pictures of Kalmyks who beat a German team at that time, which was unbelievable. So if you just take an hour or two and go on Benny Mushkin's website, it'll give you a lot more feel of what it was like in the DP camps. And my Aunt Edna was young. I'm going by what my mother and father told me, and so forth. So I mean, my father would say he would sneak into town and look for the trash for food. So I'm not sure how much food was given to the Kalmyks in the DP camps, but he always talked about it was never enough. So he always sneak out with his friends and go into, he stayed in Pfaffenhofen. So I didn't know where that is, but he stayed in that camp. So I can give you like stories that he told me, and I can tell you like stories about like Edna talked about the train. I know talking to Gavril Bodishelov, he told me he was a keeper of the Buddhist relics. And Buddhist relics, like the Buddhist scriptures, like the Buddhist important artifacts, because we're Buddhists, we're Tibetan Buddhists. And he told me he was strafed, or the train got shot by American planes. And he had to jump off one train, go to another train, and both trains got attacked by American planes. But he was the keeper of these religious artifacts, and that's important to us. No matter how we got to Germany or what journey we went through, it was very important for the Kalmyks to preserve our history and preserve our religion. And he told me about the story about going from train to train, preserving these relics, and it being bombed by American planes. So I can tell you stories like that secondhand, but Edna can probably, and everyone else there could talk to you about firsthand, but she was young.
Yeah.
But
would you mind to give me your email address so that we can also make more personal interview about all this thing
sure.
one day? Yeah, because
Sure.
I see only iPhone under your picture, so I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Oh, my name's Alta Burушкиным.
Oh, I can't.
Okay.
Can
All
you
right, but
spell it,
I
or
can-
Paulina? Can you give it to me then later?
I'll give it
Sure,
to
sure.
Paulina. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. I have still one more general question, but I see there are at least now already two persons where I can then later we can precise or get more in detail on the subject.
Okay, I see here also my dear friend Marии Taunov. Maybe she has something to add, and maybe Sean also can say something. Let's hear from more American Halim Good. And this was great, Miss Erdnia and Alta, thank you very much for your contribution. I think now it will give more for Petra to work on. And now Marии Taunov will say something to us.
Good morning, everyone. Petra, thank you very much. I love your enthusiasm and the projects you're working on. I was born in Germany. Actually, I was born in Germany, but I was born in Munich. My sister was born in Pfaffenhofen. However, since I was born in 1950, my uncle, Arash Boromajinov, he had connections within the town and the townspeople. And I was the first child to be born in a hospital. My sister was, of course, born in the GP camps. She's 2 years older than me. Like Alta was saying, I was a baby when I was there, but I have stories, and I know that for work, my mother and father were saying that my father worked in the coal mines in Metz, France. In France, they also have a big community of Kalmyks who share the same story as we do, a little different because they went there after the revolution and the Russian Revolution, of course. So they lived there for a long time before us Americans came to America, us Kalmyks who came to America. And my father worked in the coal mines with other Kalmyk boys. They were young boys at the time, 12, 13. And I have one picture of that. My father's in it, George Kalachinov is in it. There's who else? Oh, my uncle Simeon Bambashu, Nornadyanov, and then there's somebody else from Philadelphia. I can't remember his name, but it's my father said that what they would do, they would take canaries into the coal mines, and if the canary dies, everybody came out. If not, and he was always saying how hungry he was, and how one of the boys, he was an orphan. He didn't have parents. If you had parents at the time, they would kind of take care of you. They would help you. And this boy was an orphan. He was a Kalmyk orphan. He had no one to take care of him. And they were talking about having a potato a day, And this boy he would stop his body from moving, inside. And that's, my father told me the story. I didn't understand it at first, but, he explained it later on. He said, nobody helped him. He was by himself, and he had actually less to eat than everybody else. Very sad story. But, like I was saying, I wasn't, I was born there, but listening to the stories was really quite amazing. And also, my mother came from Serbia, and her stories there, her and her sister used to share shoes. One, if she went to school one day, the other one stayed home. They would share shoes. And then one day my aunt would say, I'm going out. So she took paper, cardboard paper, and put it, on the soles of her shoes because, and then if it started raining, she would run home. And, her cardboard got wet. But what she was waiting for was at the bakery, at the end of the day, if they didn't sell anything, they would give it to the kids. They were children at the time, like and they could see that they were very poor. They didn't have much. And, that's just like another one of the stories that I always remember. So this is wonderful. If I can help you in any way, please let me know.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, I must say. At the moment, I'm completely confused because there are so many details which come unexpectedly somehow. But and please, you should know that when I work, I cannot work within 1 year on such thing. It takes time. I want to go to the communities. I want to talk to these people. I want to talk to you again, maybe twice, 3 times, to get clearer, to get it done in German and to make it understand. So please have also patience with me, because me too, I have, I'm born after the war. I was born in 48, but still, when I grew up, it was 55 when I came to school. The situation was already, for me, like Ernie, like you said, I think you said it, I was a child. For me, everything was natural. I didn't think about war and this and that, and everything was fine in 55. So me too, I have in my head, I have to go back to this time to understand the situation, to understand the people, and what happened there. And so please have also patience with me. This is in between, but I have still one more question, if you don't mind. I read in the book of Jelena that there must have been schools that the Kалмык in the camps organized, not only them, also other nationalities, but the Kалмыks organized schools for the younger children, later also for the kind of university from the UNRWA, which existed a few years in Munich, I think. But especially there were lessons for the smaller children to learn Kалмык language, to write, to learn other languages, and so on. Did your parents talk about this?
I could speak for my mother and father. Because of the wars, it was very difficult for the Kалmyks to go to school and so forth. But when they ended up naturally in Germany, everybody wanted to go to the American zone. And that's how most of the Kалmyks ended up in the American zone. Okay, and that was like a mantra: get to the American zone. My mother did not have any religious services. Remember when she lived in Russia, she remembers going to Elista for like holidays and attending there. But when she was in the DP camps, the Bukshas, the Manyas there, they organized a religious service there for the young children. And also English was taught, and also Spanish was taught. And my father used to say to me, I don't understand English. I got, you can say two, like TWO or TO or TOO. How can you have those words saying the same, but 3 different meanings? he loved Spanish. The Haimuks in the DP camps almost was going to go to Peru. And some of the pictures of our relatives on the back, it has stamped Peru. And my father loved Spanish. He can understand Spanish because he said the word meant the word. It was not two different meanings. And also, the elders got together. They taught. You could see from Benny Mushkin's website that they try to teach Oriat and the script, but it's difficult. You're in DP camps. What are you gonna do? And but they tried, and I just want to tell you a little story about collaboration between the German people and the Haimuks. And I'm not sure if so many people know this, but my mother told me that they were trying to find work for the Kalmyks, and they couldn't find work. Sometimes it was difficult, but my mother was young. But there was a circus coming through, and they were looking for people to dress as American Indians. And lo and behold, my mother and her girlfriend had headdresses to participate in the circus. But my mother said she couldn't go out there because she was laughing so hard because all the other elders trying to pass off of Indians on this German circus. And she couldn't go out there because she was laughing so hard. But there was some kind of collaboration. We look like Indians if you think about it. I mean, but that's kind of like a collaboration that went on. Who was in charge of the circus? Who was coordinating? What circus it was? I don't know. Maybe you can talk to the people there. But there was a circus there, and the elders tried to get work for people, and dressing up as Indians was an opportunity. But my mother couldn't go out there with her girlfriend. She was laughing so hard seeing all the people dressed up as Indians. But I just want to share that with you so you know there was some kind of collaboration between the peoples.
Alta, I have pictures of that circus exhibition.
Oh, you can send it to Petra.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. I'm so grateful for you guys to come and help Petra, and I'm sure it will be great collaboration, especially for us. My generation and the younger generation, and because of this modern situation, we now have people who relocated last year, because of the war, they moved to other countries. We have here Ira, for example, who lives in Georgia, and she helps other Kalmyks, to relocate and do things. And unfortunately, our nation has a very, very large period of tragic events. Yes, this happened. The Second World War divided the nation. Those were in these DP camps. All the other Kalmyks in the Soviet Union were in Siberia, in exile. And now it's not very fortunate period. So I think the most important is that we share these stories and we teach them to our young people, to our children, grandchildren. That's why they know. And it's great that Alta remembers all this story. Maria remembers the stories. I'm sure that you share this with your nephews and grandchildren and kids and whatever. And what we also do, we try. We live outside of our native people's land, but we try to keep the not that much language, unfortunately, but the history and the religion and traditions as well. And such meetings, I'm sure they are so important because each of us now will talk to our families, will talk to all the people we know, and maybe, by the word of mouth, it will go and will spread, and more information will be given. And please share email of Petra with other Halim Good in the United States, those who can and might help with this. And anything else? Maybe Petra, you have other questions, or we have some other comments from the floor from our audience, maybe. The names which were mentioned, I'm sorry, the names which were mentioned, they are very, very well known, like Ben Moshkin and Darash Bormanzhinov. He was also a very well known scientist, and his family is still there. And I was hoping that maybe somebody will come, because Sean was trying as well to bring them today. And we have quite a few still people who are with us and who can share. And I'm sure something has to be written about this. Something, okay, this is going to be long maybe, but I mean, it's worth it. It's really worth it. It's really worth it. Like my uncle wrote a book about the Halimgut of the abroad, including France and Germany and Czech Republic and Serbia. Unfortunately, Mirjana Georgievich couldn't join us. She had a small accident, but she's sending her greetings and she asked for the recording. So maybe I can put you in touch with her as well. But, you know, if anybody has anything else to add, maybe what you have heard, maybe what you have learned, or especially those who are in the States, our compatriots in the States, please take the floor. And my cat is listening as well.
I'll say a few words if I
Sean,
can. Yeah.
yes, Sean,
So,
yes, please, yes, yes.
yeah, I definitely applaud Petra's efforts to put a book together about the Kalmuk, the displaced persons camps in Germany. I was born in the United States, but I've also heard stories from my parents and grandparents when they were alive of the time that they spent in Germany. When, for instance, my stepfather, who is in Arbakov, his family was fairly well known in Germany. They lived in Pfaffenhofen. They also, the stories that I'm hearing from my stepfather, that it was not extremely tragic place to live. It was very poor. Two families shared a dorm room. I would think it's a dorm room. Two families would share one room together, and they would have a sheet across the room, splitting the room in half, so that one family of 3 or 4 or 5 people spent their time in one half of the room, and the other family spent their time in the other half of the room. So they were sharing a room of maybe 10 people. They worked. The mother and father would work during the day. The kids would go to school. Sundays they would go to a Russian language camp or class. They did have food, but they did not have enough. I've heard the same story where some days they had a good amount of food and some days they had not enough food. They were always looking for something to do. But, you know, like children will do, they made use of whatever was available, you know. So they would get into mischief. They would go out into the area, look for other things. But from what I understand, it was not extremely a terrible, terrible place to live. So they actually made do with what they're doing. So the other thing was when I noticed the one book you wrote, it was in German. Was this book ever translated into English or no?
Which one?
The one you showed this in the beginning of the Zoom.
About the painter of the 18th century,
Yes,
about
Fedor
Fedor.
Kalmyk.
No, it was never translated into English.
Right, okay.
I have only this little part which Almana translated for me, this one. It was the second chapter, Almana. I think it was the second chapter which she translated for me when I went to Ellistar, so that I had something to present in Ellistar. But we never thought of translating it into English.
Right, okay. What about this new book that you're writing now? Or will this be translated into English?
You should discuss it with my editor.
Right, well, that might be a good thing for us to do. Alan and Maria, we can probably put some effort together to try to get that translated into English for our people here in the United States.
I could send you information on both books, more detailed information. I have one summary of Fedor in English. For the others, well, I could make a summary in English for the other book so that you have more ideas. For the Fedor, I have the rights of the books. I could decide on the right of translation. But for the new book, which appeared 3 weeks ago, the criminal story, there I have not the rights anymore. It is the editor. You have to do everything with the editor.
Okay.
But he
I'm
is
sure it's a great
quite
idea to
quite a
translate
kind
both
person.
books in English. Yeah, I'm
Sorry?
sure, and Sean can help. I'm sure it's a great idea, and Sean can really help with
That would be
translation.
great.
Right. Okay. Well, that's an important thing. I think the book that you're writing now would be beneficial to the American Kалмык people who are probably 2 times removed already.
Yes.
Not my generation, but people below my generation, my children, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the people that are left today there are very few people left that experienced life in the German work camps.
Mm.
And then one other thing I'll just mention, I know this has been circulating around in the American community maybe for the last 3 or 4 years, but it's the Aronson archives, which are a German archive, which I passed that on to my relatives, and we found all the documents we needed for birth certificates, where they lived, etc., which is very valuable. It's all written in German, but my aunt Ida, for instance, she had no birth certificate, and I said, well, I found it. I found her birth certificate online through the Aronson archives, so I printed it out.
And she is Kалmık. She's Kалmık too.
She was Kалmık, born in Pfaffenhofen, but
In
when she was born,
Pfaffenhofen. Yeah.
it was maybe 3 or 4 months. So
Yeah.
she came here to Philadelphia,
Yeah.
before she was 1 year old. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and we had no record of her birth. She had no record of her birth, but now she does.
Yeah. Yeah. I found about Aronson. I did not yet do proper research there because till now I was still busy with the new book, and I'm still preparing kind of reading sessions at the moment. This is why I could not yet so much go into the details of the new project, but I hope now in the second part of the year that I can go more into details in this displaced person camp story with not story, but history with the Kалmыks. But so far I was very busy still with the other books, with the other book.
All right. Well, I will keep your email, and I'll get together with Alan and Maria, and maybe we can get you some more information.
Yeah, please.
From
And
other people.
if you send me your email, I can send you more details about both books.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe there's one little interesting detail I didn't know. Also, Jelena didn't mention it in her book, but I found it out through my first research. Although I do not yet have many details about it, there must have been one camp specially for old displaced persons. And there must have lived a few Kалmыks as well who had come to, after the war, to Germany without family, it seems, because they were there on their own, old people of, I don't know, 60 to 80 upwards. Jelena didn't write about this. It was also in Bavaria, and I want also to try to go there and to find out more details. Who had lived there? Who was that? And why did they go there come there within that age, during that age?
Let's give the floor to Elьвире Чурюмовой. She is a historian living in England. Yes, Elvira, I think that she can now also comment on this, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Elvira, and I've been working on this topic actually on displaced Kалmыks for a while. So I'm wondering if anyone read a paper that I've written with my collaborator. His name is Ted Holland. He's from Arkansas University. So we basically based our paper on the International Trace and Service Archive. It is based in Germany, but the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. has a copy. So we used those documents on Kalmyks that were filled on them in DP camps in 45 and then later in 49, 50, 51. So I'm wondering if anyone read this paper. Is there anyone in? No? Okay, I'm happy to share it. And I think it will give you
Yes,
more
please. You can also share it in
Yeah.
the files in our group, you know, on the Facebook. You can upload the file, or you
Yeah.
can send it to me and I'll try to distribute it to, especially to the audience who is present now.
Yeah, I think it will give you contextual information, Petra, on the life of Kalmyk DPs, their background of not only Kalmyks but all other DPs as well. And I'm very happy to see some members of Kalmyk, of American Kalmyks, because for this paper we actually traveled to Philadelphia. We stayed in 2019, and we spent there a week searching for Kalmyks who could give us some information about their lived experiences in DP camps, or maybe their parents or some recollections of childhood memories, perhaps. And we interviewed for this paper Erne and Sanджи Алтану, which was very helpful to us. And we were in contact with Iрине Анюшевой as well. Yeah, sorry, it's my son. Yeah, so I'm happy to share this paper. And my question to Petra is, I'm wondering what you mentioned. You mentioned you're gonna use some German sources. I'm wondering what are these sources? Could you give some specific details?
There are almost no sources at all. This is what made me desperate a little bit, and this is why I decided I would like to make a kind of documentary about it. The only book on Kalmyks in German, which is somehow goes a little bit deeper, is only the time where the Kalmyk served in the Deutsche Wehrmacht with the Kalmyk Cavalry Corps. And it ended with the war. And this was by Hoffmann. I don't remember his first name at the moment, Hoffmann. And this is practically the only book, but it is almost only about the war situation from Elista, from Kalmykia up to Austria, via Ukraine, via Poland, and that is all. And it ends really with the end of the war. And he did not go any further. And so I tried to find out, I looked at a lot of material in Munich, in some archives in Munich, because most of the camps are in Bavaria. Practically all of the DP camps for Kalmyks are in Bavaria. So I looked there, but it is mainly, I would say, for 90% on Polish, Russian, and especially Jewish displaced persons. And only once in a while you find a sentence, yeah, there have been also Kalmyks. Sometimes I found in Niederraunau, for Niederraunau, in an old chronicle of Niederraunau, no, of Krumbach, but Krumbach and Niederraunau is practically one. In an old chronicle, I found it was not more than 3 sentences in this chapter about the displaced person in Krumbach, Niederraunau. And I found only that there must have been around 400 to 600 Kalmyks who have been there for 1 or 2 years. That is all, nothing precise. So it is very difficult, and I went through, I don't know how many little books and papers in the archives, but I try to find more when I go there to the community still. But it seems that there is nothing special on the Kalmyk nationality.
I see. Yeah.
There is more. Sorry to interrupt. I found more information than later with the help of Sanджи. What is his second name?
Санджи Алтану.
Yeah, and he gave me some authors in English, in American, about American works or information, and I found more there than in Germany.
Right, yes. Yeah, Kalmyks also published a newspaper, their own newspaper in DP camps. I think it was in Russian, called Обозрение, I think, but there was also a journal. I can't remember its name now, but it was more cultural. Like they published like poems and stories. Maybe someone could.
Yeah, there are some Kalmyk papers according to Yelena Remileva in her book. Yeah. And I found out in one of these many papers, I still want to go there to find out more. In Koblenz, or in Koblenz, I think there's the Federal Archive, and there seem to be some of these Kalmyk displaced person camps newspapers left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some of them you could find in digital format. Some of them are online in Russian. Yeah, but yeah, I was actually like interested in what sources there are in German and in Germany.
I go through my computer dates, and if you send me your mail address, I will send you the links, whatever I found.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll make sure I'll share that paper with you as well.
We can share the paper. I got one paper from England, Oxford University, but don't ask me at the moment for the title. I don't have it in mind, but I have it in the computer date. I got it via our university here, but also it is a link via an internet link.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Maybe you know it. Anyway, I will send you the link. Maybe you know it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Elvira, if you want, we can organize another meeting with you, because don't be modest. In our group, you can offer anything, you can share with us anything, all your, developments, all new articles, and we always find such initiative very good, and it's very inspiring for us to see such work and to have some examples, some role models in history and everything, especially for younger people. So whenever you want, we can organize a separate meeting in Russian, maybe, for the group, for those who are interested in the history. Thank you so much.
Is there still time so that I can add one thing?
Yes, we have time, and maybe those who have some other thoughts, please take the floor, raise your hands, and you can express your impressions about today's meeting and maybe suggestions and whatever. Yeah, please.
Yeah. There is one article I found in Russian. I don't know if you know this. This is from an Elista Science Institute, Kigiran. I don't know if you know Kigiran.
Yes, of course,
yes, I think so.
Yes, of course
so I got an information. From where did I get it? I don't remember. No, I got it via my library research. And there is a link. And in this Kigiran article in Russian, it is written about a little booklet, which is handwritten, which seemed to be today in New Jersey. And it is a handwritten Crown School book for children to learn Kalmyk language. So it is described in this article. If somebody is interested in it, I can also try to give the link where I got it from.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, it would be interesting. Anything which is related to our today's topic or in general. I'm sure there are so many gray areas in the history of Kalmyks during the Second World War, and there are different aspects, there are different points of view, and as we know, history sometimes can be so subjective, unfortunately, that, you know, winners write the history, right? Whoever writes history, he decides what to include or what not into the history. Anybody wants to say something before we wrap it up? Anybody else? Ladies from our group, Giliana, Gemma, Mika, Larissa, Lena,
Irina has her
Baira.
hand up.
Irina wants to say.
I'd
Yeah,
like
sure.
something to add. So I'd like to
Yeah.
share my story. I was born and raised in Russia, Kalmykia, and I left Russia last year because of the war. I'm an anti-war activist and volunteer. Like very recently, I started digging about my history of my family, and I knew that my mother's side is from Rostov region. She is Buzav, and I heard that we had a relative in the USA, and we received a letter in like I don't know when. My relative received a letter from the USA, and he did not answer because it was still a communist regime in Russia. So I started digging about this side of my family, and I found some information about my great-grandfather's brother, who actually was in Germany, and then he moved to the United States. And I used Ancestry.com as a source. It's like a tech startup, I guess, where you can find some documents and build your family tree, for example. And I found some documents about he was married in Germany, and his name in the list of passengers from Munich to New York, I guess. And I even found his death certificate. He died in Philadelphia in 1954. And I actually asked Lainey, who is a volunteer in
Kitty
America.
Badakov's daughter.
Okay,
Eleni.
yes. Yeah, and she asked her aunt, I guess, and her aunt even remembered my great-grandfather's brother. Yes, he died in 1954, and she said that he did not have any children or something like any relatives left. So
Can you tell the last name, Ira? Last name.
Mucherinov. He was Pursia Mucherinov. His name was. And I just started digging it very in April, 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. So it's very interesting that, yes, Pursia Mucherinov, yes. So it's very interesting that this meeting came along that discussed this topic. And from our perspective, from people who are in Russia, we actually do not know much about our own history, especially the Soviet and before Soviet. We don't have any history lessons about Russia, about Kalmyks. We have some history lessons about Russia, but we don't have history lessons about our own people. So it's very interesting, and I think it's very like great that you are interested in it. And I'm very happy that I was at today's meeting, that I have some new information to think about, and maybe some to continue my research about his life. So thank you
so much.
all.
I remind that the recording will be available, and let's welcome Mr. Altan, who joined us now. Maybe Mr. Altan would like to say a few words as well, according to the topic, the life in the camps in Germany after the Second World War.
Medet minyan neden Sanджи
Medet.
Namaga Songshanta
Sončenaviden.
Hajmagar Dovarchi Volki skin Anglifikel Deri
Halimgar Angliska.
Angliska. Yes. So thank you for this invitation to join you. I've spoken with Mrs. Reategi before, and I'm familiar with her interest in Kalmyk history of the period of the camps post World War II, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about this and her other books. Many congratulations to Mrs. Reategi. Thank you.
I have to thank you, Sanджи, for your cooperation and for your help. And it was very helpful all the information you had sent to me.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I hope we can continue to collaborate.
Yes, sure. As I said, I was very busy the last weeks because of the last book, but I hope that in the second part of this year, I will be a little bit more free and have more time to go more into details and deeper into the subject.
Yes, yeah.
What we definitely have to underline here and commend the American Good for keeping the language. Let's say I went to the US first time in 1990, and I was amazed that people there who were born in Germany, Serbia, Bulgaria, I don't know, they keep the language, they speak the language at home with their children and grandchildren. This was the first time I was ever been able to visit a Kalmyk Buddhist temple, for example, because in the Soviet Union, we were deprived of such possibility for many, many years. And I'm sure American Kalmyks do a lot to keep our nation's history and traditions and the language. And this is the example which our young people, let's say Irina, Almana, everybody will have to follow and somehow work on it, you know, to keep the language, because let's say Mr. Altan said that he would like to speak Kalmyk, and unfortunately there will be some gap here because not everyone would understand, even from the people present here. So this is the worst situation with the language which exists now. And of course, when we see such enthusiasts like Petra or Mirjana or some other people who are interested in the history and the past of our small ethnic group, if you compare to huge nations, right? Even ethnic Russians, or I don't know, even Mongols and whatever, that we can only applaud such people and thank such people, and we should try, of course, and help such people and in every aspect, and do all what we can do our utmost to help. And I'm grateful very much to those who found time today and attended our meeting. The recording will be shared, and I'm sure there are already points of common interest which Petra will continue to dig with the help of the new people she met today at this meeting. And I'm sure that we will all try to contribute in whatever way to her research and put her in touch with some others maybe who couldn't attend today's meeting of us. But otherwise, if maybe because we're already 1.5 hours, and if there are maybe some closing remarks, and then we can agree. We have in chat Petra's email. You can all contact her, and I will share the recording as well with anyone who can who wants to get it. I mean, in the group in Facebook, I will put it, but then I can send it, for example, to Sean and to Maria, and you can share it. Maybe Mr. Alta will send me his email address, and Mr. Altan will get it from Giuliana, for example. Yes, so we will make sure that people have the recording of today's meeting. Anybody wants to say something? Those who attended, those who have listened.
Well, I would like to say that Sanджи Алтану is my grandfather's wife's, Sanya's nephew. Now we see each other on the video. We used to speak on the phone only, hi Altan, and they kindly sent me the present, the gift from my grandfather. They sent me an ivory necklace and 2 brooches, which belonged to my grandfather, you see, who left the country, left Russia in 1920. It was more than 100 years ago. So, and it was very, well, exciting to receive such a gift, you know. And my grandfather was Peter Devzinov. He was Jevakov in Kalmyk, and then he became Devzinov. And he immigrated when he was a child. And he also was in Munich. And I knew about that from the documents which I received from the Kansas, I think, Kansas archive. So, and I know that Sanya, his wife, also brought a lot of documents to our Kalmyk Giran. And it is more difficult to get all the documents from our Kigiran than from the American archive, unfortunately. So, and my grandfather also wrote some books. One of the book I can also send to Petra. It is about the immigration during the Civil War of Kalmyk people to Europe at first. Well, maybe some pictures also I can send, and I received the documents from the archive, and also it is written that he was in the camp. I don't remember which one, but in Munich he was working at the Kalmyk radio also. And he was an activist. He also made the duplicate of our Kalmyk Hungarian flag. It is in the temple, our Kalmyk Buddhist temple in New Jersey, in Howell. And well, maybe I will be also helpful for you. It was nice to meet you and to see you.
I must say I'm very touched. I thank all of you so much for your help and for your understanding. And as I said before, I'm very confused now. I have first to, it has to settle down in my brain, and it is not so easy. And once again, I ask your patience. Writing a book is not done with, at least I cannot write a book within 1 year. It takes me time. Almana knows it. She knows me for quite some time, how long I work, especially when it is such a difficult subject, such a sensitive subject. I try to be correct in everything, and that takes time. And the problem is that there is not so much information. There are few sources, but I thought the same with Fedor many years ago. I also thought, oh, I will never be able to write something about him. There is not enough information. And then in the end, after 4 years, I had found so many information. It was incredible. And I could put together this book. So I hope I will be lucky once again. And I promise you, I try to be as correct as possible, and you have all the right to correct me when I do mistakes. Thank you so much for everything.
And I hope that we will soon have a meeting after Petra finishes this book with the contribution from everyone present here. And let's wish Petra, as we say in Kалмык Цаган халқы, white path, yes, means all the success in all your endeavors and all the projects. And I was very glad to see all my dear friends from the United States and from my dear group. And thank you very much, Almana and Gilana, for organizing, for coordinating today's meeting. And whatever you want, Petra will be more than happy to receive your feedback by email. Thank you so much. And I think that let's finish it for today. For tonight, it's already, let's say, in some countries, it's already evening. Yes. And let's hope we will meet somewhere, maybe very soon. I would love to visit the States again, of course. Last time I missed Maria when I was there. And have a nice time of the day and the rest of the weekend. Tomorrow we have a day off because of the 1st of May and in some countries as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Good seeing you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.